Good evening. Pardon me while I put my candy away. Anyway, hope everybody is doing well. By the way, that's probably my favoriteest candy. Maybe, I don't know. I switch around. I don't have much of a sweet tooth. Of course, I really don't have teeth, but every once in a while I like to indulge, and Charleston Chews are one of my favorites. But anyway, man, I noticed I started to get hot right before the show started. Of course, I'm drinking down coffee at record pace again, and so I real quick stripped off my, I always have that whatever you call it, pullover on. And I noticed myself getting hot like I did last night, right as the intro song was playing. So I hurried up, peeled it off, and hopefully I don't wind up getting dizzy and all that like I did last night. So anyway, before we get started, I have had a few different people reach out and ask me about these UPS or battery backups for computers. Because I don't think a lot of people thought about that before. And ever since I mentioned that, there's a lot of people that's like, ding, ding, oh, hell, that's a cheap way to get real good, consistent power, right? It is. You probably aren't going to find power supplies for that price with that kind of wattage, with that clean of power. You just won't. Like power inverters that are made to invert power for off-grid or what have you. They're typically going to run for the same quality of power. They're typically going to run quite a bit more expensive. So it's kind of a way to, if you will, cheat the system to get just as good quality. But I was asked several questions. What kind was that I had, and what kind should they get, and all that. And look, it's pretty simple. Don't go with a super cheap one. I wouldn't recommend going, they rate them a lot of times by VA. I wouldn't recommend going under about 1,000 VA. I'm not sure how many watts that would work out to be. But I've got a 1,500 VA or a 900 watt, is what mine is. And, just don't go with the cheapest. Let me take you over real quick. Just pulled up Amazon here, and by the way, just so folks know, these are commonly called UPS systems, okay? And there's a name for that, and you will probably hear me if you hadn't before, and I'm probably causing some people to pull their hair out. You'll hear me call it a universal power supply, and that is incorrect. And I'm surprised nobody's called me out or chewed me out. It's an uninterruptible power supply. For some reason, I can't keep that through my thick skull. I know it, but I have to slow down enough to remember that it's not universal, it's uninterruptible. So I wanted to be accurate for you so you knew what to search. Either UPS or uninterruptible power supply. So anyway, like right here is a Cyberpower, 1,500, right? 1,500 VA, 900 watt, 12 outlets, 161.95. So as you can see, you go looking up. Hang on. Let's look up 1,000 watt pure sine wave inverters right there. Bam. So Renogy makes one pure sine wave for right at the same amount of money. Okay, 2 outlets on it, versus what was that other one, 11 I think outlets, which I mean wattage is wattage, right? I mean it doesn't matter how many outlets you have. What matters is how much you can plug into those outlets. But still, it's nicer to have more outlets that you can work with. You want to stay away from cheap stuff because it's BS, okay? Now, if that's all you can afford, if you're looking in the market for a power inverter and all you can afford is cheap, get the cheap. Like I keep saying, don't do without if that's all you can afford. Get whatever you can and then work towards getting better. That's the name of the game. Don't do without, though, because you want that magic prize. You want that top of the line. Don't put yourself and your loved ones in a bad position because you're passing up on it because you want to get what somebody else has or what you're told is good. Don't let yourself go without. So anyway, as you can see, though, here's a pure sine inverter right here, a Magnum 395.79. Now this is probably going to be closer to the quality of electricity you're going to get out of a uninterruptible power supply. Okay, these, I'm telling you right now, these cheap ones just won't. They won't have as clean of a power, not even close to it. You'd have to put it on an oscilloscope to see it. But if you put it on an oscilloscope, you will see that, the power, 1,000 watts that you get out of this $200 pure sine wave inverter right here is not even remotely as clean as what you're going to get out of something like this uninterruptible power supply. So, and why is that important? In most cases, it's not. However, in some cases, it's very important. So, but even sometimes some simple things a modified sine wave can cause you problems with, like LED lighting, for instance. Sometimes you'll have a problem getting LED lighting to work properly with a modified sine wave inverter. A lot of people don't realize that. So, sometimes little things, yes. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that. There's really no right answer. Just stay away from the cheap ones like this $63 one. That's kind of too small for what you're going to want. Or this $50 one's kind of too small for what you want. Here's one of the, they're 600 watt. The 1000 VA 600 watt. 125.37. Plus you get 26% off, I guess. Or that might be with 26% off. It doesn't say nothing about a coupon. So anyway, even one like that would be fine. So, it's just a cheap way. But my whole point of what I was trying to explain is these are things that you can find on Craigslist, on Facebook Marketplace, just somebody giving them away, people throwing them away. Don't forget that was my whole point. My whole point was that you can find these without having to go and buy them. So keep that in mind. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up, and if the folks that had questions about that have any more questions, feel free to reach out. I'll try to answer questions about that stuff like here, because that way, instead of me just giving one person the answer, I'm giving all of you the answer. So hopefully I help multiple people instead of just one. You have a sip of coffee. Oh, and the other advantage that I went over the other night, over the uninterruptible power supplies, is that many of them are 24 volt systems, which is much more efficient than 12 volt. So, and yes, you can get 24 volt power inverters and 48 volt power inverters, 72 volt power inverters, absolutely. Is it 70? I think it's 72 is the next one up. Honestly, never seen a system that big. I've seen up to 48 volt systems. I mean, as in put my hands on and worked on. But, none bigger. I decided to have a vape. Why not? So, I think I have a couple of, kind of off stories to talk about, or not. Wait a minute. Actually, I had like one technical technically off school, or off, whatever. I can't even think of what I was going to say now. Off what? Who knows? Hell, I'm going to kick back and you guys run the show. You guys tell me about the news today. No, I'm tired. It's a good thing it's Thursday. I'm ready for my weekend. So, and it's not that I really do anything different. I really do the same thing, but I don't have to worry about a show. And sometimes I force myself to go into Flight Simulator, and hopefully I can do that tomorrow. I've tried, and I sit here and I'm like, you should totally go in and fly for a little bit. And this is the conversation I have with myself. And I talk myself out of it every time. And it's not hard for me to talk myself out of it. It's like, well, no, keep an eye on, check this, check that, Hard for me to relax. But it's nice to have a couple of days a week that I don't have to worry about doing the show, Not that the show's a hassle or anything like that. But it's just nice because I've got all that extra time to think. Because I this show isn't, I may be live for like an hour, but I put a lot of thought each and every day before I do the show. I have no notes. And the days, the rare occasion that I do have notes, it's like 3 or 4 sentences on a piece of paper. That's it. It's not that I memorize any type of script or anything like that, but there are key things that I do my very best to put in my head to remember to talk about. And I usually do a pretty good job on that. So, as far as remembering, but got a headline up there. That's something I need to do too. And I need to figure out another way. Hell, I don't know where to put that. I'm going to set it. Pardon me. Hang on, I'm trying to get it in the right spot here. Okay. And these are like backwards. Okay. Sorry. I'm looking at these headlines. I've got them ordered in the tabs. And I hate taking them out of order in which they came. But it almost seems in some cases like it's backwards. Actually, yeah, that is backwards. Let me just drag that to the end. There we go. That fixes it. Okay, sorry. So what I'm saying is sometimes if I just do it chronologically in how the news came out, that in itself puts stuff out of the timeline, out of the order of the timeline. And so I try to keep that straight, but it's a battle. And trying to keep it all straight, but I'll do my best to kind of explain any gaps or any back and forth as I can. There was a lot of news today that came out on the U.S., Russia, China front. There was quite a bit of news that came out today on that. I do have an off story to start out with. Got a few things about COVID and vaccines, and then we're going to start talking about Russia, China, and the U.S. and all this insanity. I'm telling you, it's close. It's very close, and I urge you to get ready. Everything that I've been saying, please listen. Make sure you've got a way to stay warm. Somehow, make sure you've got a way to stay warm. Make sure you've got enough food to get you by. Just, go through the list. Know what you need to have. Make sure you have it. Make sure everything's in order. Everything's ready to go. Practice with things that you haven't done before. And do your best not to be caught off guard. Because none of us knows. We don't have crystal balls. None of us can sit here and predict for you how this is going to play out or what exactly is going to happen. We don't know. It could be a good down situation. It could be a limited nuclear exchange. We have no idea. You know, it could be a cyber attack on our grid that puts us down for 2 weeks, or it could be an EMP, in which most of us will never see an electric grid in our lifetimes again. We don't know. We have no idea. And anybody that tries to tell you different, they're not trying to help you. They've got some other agenda. The reality is we don't know. We don't know when, we don't know how. But I would say you damn well better be ready. And I think we're right on the cusp of it. We've got all the indicators. Hell, we've even got our own president threatening us. Oh, that's in the news. That's in the beginning of it tonight. Let me have another sip of vape, and we'll get on with it. I love coffee, man. Make sure you've got coffee for SHTF and a way to brew it. Don't forget that. I never did get the 12-cup percolator. We've got a 9-cup, and I like it. I like it a lot. But and it'll be fine. I need to focus more on getting a thermos so I can keep coffee warm, because I don't have a thermos. I need to focus on getting one of those. Just get ready the best you can. All right, let's kick over the web view, maybe. There we go. I knew you could. So Europe's largest emergency gas stockpile hits record low. It's still kind of the beginning of winter, yo. And they're already at a historic low on their emergency stockpile. That doesn't sound very good. And, you know, what's really sad is if they would allow, and maybe a lot of people won't like this, but it is what it is, if they wouldn't keep stepping in the way of Russia being able to provide energy, they probably wouldn't be in as bad a position. You know? I'm not going to sit here and get into battles between different energy industries, businesses, that I'm not, why would I go to battle for somebody that wouldn't go to battle for me? These energy conglomerates, they don't care about you. If they did, they wouldn't hike rates up so much that you can barely pay your bill. They wouldn't have meetings with leaders in other industries to try and figure out exactly how much they could squeeze out of you. And yes, they do. Isn't that lovely? So these folks don't care about you. Don't defend them. But when it comes to shortages and stuff like that, it blows my mind that there's a pipeline sitting there waiting to get all the proper approvals and all that, and they can just go. And yet, because of politics, because of corporate wars, there could be people that wind up freezing to death this winter. That's just mind-blowing to me. Switching gears here, I wanted to point out two things with this story, and many of you have probably heard about it already. And I'm clearly going to point out the obvious at how distasteful that it was that Biden would pick that particular moment when he's there in Kentucky to bring up a football player that's involved in some vaccination controversy. I thought it was pretty tacky. But this is going to be one of those things for the people with ears to hear and eyes to see. I want to point something out about that. Don't think old Dementia Joe is that far out of it. I want you to think about the cognitive recognition that it would have taken for him to realize who this guy, whatever the hell his name is, I don't even know who the hell the football player is, right? He had the cognitive recognition to realize that this was a quarterback or whatever the hell position he plays for whatever team, Packers or whatever. I don't know what kind of jersey she. I'm not into sports. I am telling you, I am not into sports. And anyway, he had the cognitive recognition to know who played for what team, that it was that individual that was involved in a vaccine controversy. On the fly, he had that much mental clarity to put that all together and make a comment. One of the most dangerous things you can ever do is underestimate your enemy. Don't forget that. It's fun to call him Dementia Joe and Potato Joe and all the other names. But don't fool yourself. The same was true for another president that fooled a lot of people. People thought he was just as dumb as a brick. And that was Bush Jr. That was another guy. Knew exactly what he was doing. Was good at what he was doing. Yet nobody would ever guess it. Because he came off so stupid. So bumbly. Don't underestimate your enemy. You're doing nothing but setting yourself up for failure. I just wanted to point that out. That was something that I noticed above and beyond the obvious. I'm sitting there and I'm watching the headlines come in about across the pond and their reaction to Omicron. And I'm like, I can't say what I want to say. I try to keep it family friendly. But, the F, right? And, because they're just going nuts over there with it. They just want to lock everything down. They just want to, they're acting like it's the end. When so many are coming out and saying pretty much the same thing on it. That, hey, look, this looks like it's much more transmissible, but much less serious so far. But you have these individuals that are still running with it. They're only taking that one side of it, fear-mongering as much as they can, and trying to take over as much control. And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of it is they know it. They see that it's about to be the end of their charade. And they see it. They see their card house crumbling now. And Omicron's going to cause their card house to crumble. And they know it. So they're trying to get in that one last push. Because I don't think they got near as far, were nearly as successful as what they intended. But I thought maybe the U.S. maybe the U.S. is going to be able to sneak past all the nonsense. Maybe. Maybe not. Biden predicts dark winter for the unvaccinated. I don't know why. U.S. President Joe Biden urged all Americans to get booster shots and warned of a winter full of severe illness and death for those who remained unvaccinated amid the spread of Omicron variant of COVID-19. Why? If you're vaccinated and have your booster shot, you're protected from severe illness and death, Biden said on Thursday in brief remarks to the press as he met with his COVID-19 coordination team at the White House. Due to the steps we've taken, Omicron has not spread as fast as it could have otherwise done, Biden added. But it's here now and it's spreading and it's going to increase. Due to the steps you took? What were those? Oh, the travel bans that you put in place after it was already here. Gotcha. Thank you, Joe. The White House responded to the discovery of the variant designated Omicron by the World Health Organization in late November by banning travelers from 8 African countries, racist, where it was first detected. The ban went into effect. Hey, they called Trump racist. All I'm doing is keeping the momentum. The ban went into effect on November 29th, the first U.S. case of the Omicron contagion that was detected 2 days later in California in a traveler who returned from South Africa on November 22nd. As of Wednesday, 38 U.S. states have reported cases of Omicron, which is said to amount to 3% of total infections across the country. Health authorities across the world consider Omicron to be far more transmissible than the Delta variant. Blamed for the spike in U.S. coronavirus deaths this year, data suggests that its symptoms are much milder, however. They even used an adjective there. Adjective, right? Much milder. Not just milder, but much milder. Huh. Imagine that. Dark winter, you say? Huh. So, if I would have talked about this 2 months ago, I could have very well gotten a strike. But it's in the news now. And so apparently the conspiracy factist, because that I'm changing it. We're not conspiracy theorists anymore. We're conspiracy factist. The conspiracy factist were right again. CDC urges Americans to embrace mRNA vaccines. Now I know that headline. I know I don't like the headline. However, hear the article out. The U.S. Health Agency has recommended that patients seeking to get vaccinated against COVID-19 receive Pfizer or Moderna mRNA-based shots rather than the Johnson & Johnson jab due to the risk of blood clots. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention backed the recommendation of its advisory panel to designate the mRNA-based COVID-19 vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer and BioNTech the preferred vaccination option, citing newly released data on the incidence of a severe but rare blood clot disorder in the adenovirus-based jab from Johnson & Johnson. Really? Again, remember, if I would have said that 2 months ago, because I was looking at data, I would have gotten in trouble. But because now they have said it 2 months later, and I'm just throwing the 2 months out there, that I'm getting that from nowhere. Now it's news. On my personal Facebook page, here and there I've been sharing out articles these football players, or I guess soccer players, mostly, that are just dying. And there's been several that I've posted. But we can't talk about that. We can't talk about that until the official sources think it's important enough. Or whatever. Can't get away with it any longer. Whatever it is that makes that difference. It's sad. And I have no dog in this fight. I don't care what you do. I mean, I'm not saying I don't care about you. I'm saying I want you to make your choices. I don't want to make any choices for you. The only choice even remotely that I want to make for you is the choice to, one, follow the Father, most importantly, and two, to get ready. That's it. Other than that, how you do all of the above is completely up to you. But it's rough. It weighs on me. There's a lot of stuff I can't talk about. It's not just this. There's a whole lot of stuff. And there's a whole lot of stuff for a whole lot of reasons I can't talk about. It's not just about what YouTube will do to me. YouTube and say losing a YouTube channel is actually the least of concerns. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Okay. Now we're switching up gears here. Another sip of coffee. I got a few things to say about this first one. It's another thing. It's nothing new. So, don't think it's something new. I can remember playing with a web-based AI bot for hours that a guy I know had running on one of his servers. And that thing was pretty cool. And this was, 2003, 2004 maybe? Something like that. I was sitting there having conversations, question-answer conversations with a web-based bot. It's pretty surreal. I was shocked at how good it was. And it was programmed to just crawl the internet and learn. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Guy I know had it put up, and it was cool. For the time, it blew my mind. I can't imagine what they have now. And this was, I can't imagine what they had then. This was available to us, It's pretty wild, though. Don't get me wrong. It couldn't have held a candle to even like Siri or Alexa or anything like that. Don't misunderstand me. Though even Siri and Alexa are much more advanced than what I'm talking about. But again, I remind you, we're talking a long time ago. Almost 20 years. So there's been a few computing advancements since then. Just a few. Okay, so that's obviously what this first thing is about. U.S. develops tool to predict China's response. Again, it's nothing new. We'll read a little bit of what they have to say here. The U.S. military has constructed a tool to help it predict which actions will upset China and cause strategic friction in the Pacific, such as warship maneuvers, arms sales, and missions to Taiwan. Because, see, they want to make sure that they cover all their, they want to make sure they do it all. According to Reuters, the tool looks at previous actions which have impacted relations between the two countries and uses that data to calculate strategic friction and predict which actions in the near future could also lead to a negative response. How to better poke them. The Biden administration's Deputy Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, was reportedly briefed on the new tool in Hawaii on Tuesday. In an interview, Hicks said the U.S. needs to be looking at a far broader set of indicators, weaving that together, and then understanding the threat interaction with China. In other words, what's it going to take to start the war, and how can we most effectively respond after it starts? What are they going to do, and then how are we going to respond? And they're wargaming all that out, and they're using artificial intelligence to do that. But this is nothing new. They're making it sound like it's something new. They've been using this on us for a long time. For a very long time. They have been perfecting the system on us. And that is why, you ever notice, you look at nations across the pond and whatnot, and there's just all kinds of unrest going on over mandates and all that. There's protests. There's all kinds of craziness going on. But why not in the United States? Why is it that here in the United States they're always able, and I call it the temperature, they're always able to keep that temperature just cool enough that it doesn't tip the edge? Just barely. They use these computer programs. They know. They know exactly how far that they can push us and how long it will take us to boil in that pot of boiling water. That's what concerns me when it comes to this issue on the domestic end of things. Because you don't have a bunch of idiots up there doing this stuff. You have a bunch of highly sophisticated people with the best tools and some of the best minds on this planet. To take complete control. That's what you're up against. Not a bunch of bumbling idiots. So just remember that. And I'm not saying that to discourage you. I'm saying that to be realistic with you, because I think far too many people underestimate the enemy. And that's a sure way to lose. That's a sure way to lose. So anyway, we've got that going on. Oh, wow, it's 1:45. Russia tests new anti-submarine missile. Sorry, I had to straighten my neck. Well, I won't say straighten it, but... let's see. A Russian warship in the Sea of Japan has conducted a successful test of a new anti-submarine missile, which launches into the air before dropping a torpedo, a statement from the country's Ministry of Defense revealed on Wednesday. The weapon, named the Otvet, or Answer, was launched by the Russian Pacific Fleet's Marshal Shaposhnikov, something like that, frigate, and successfully hit an underwater target, officials announced. Anti-submarine... You know one person I hope never hears this show? That's Pinball Preparedness' wife. Because she's probably screaming at the top of her lungs at me, and if you ever do hear this show, my apologies that I can't speak Russian names. I don't have a clue. I am very interested, though, in the entire culture, actually. I have a lot of respect for the Russian people. A lot of respect. Let's see. Anti-submarine missiles are fired by universal launchers that make it possible to use the Onyx and Caliber cruise missiles, the statement added, referring to supersonic weapons currently employed by the Russian armed forces. The head of the Otvet missile contains a compact self-guided anti-submarine torpedo. When the missile has reached its target, it releases the torpedo by parachute into the water, where it seeks out the enemy vessel using its sonar capabilities. The version of the Otvet designed to target surface ships has a maximum range of 40 kilometers. So it's a bit different of a weapon as what we have been seeing come out. This is quite a bit different. This involves a torpedo instead of a more of like ballistic type of missile. Again, you're going to see this back and forth between the nations showing off more and more advanced weapons as time goes on. And again, I don't know if it's a real conflict or if it's rumors of war or what's going on. But I will say, regardless if it's a dog and pony war, we'll call it a dog and pony war, or an actual war, a real war, it's still going to seem like a real war to us. It's not going to be any different. Whether the governments are working together behind closed doors is not going to make a damn bit of difference when it comes to the blood spilt by soldiers or civilians. So make no mistake of that. It's still going to be real blood. Still going to be real lives. It's still going to be real loss. U.S. deploys F-15 fighters closer to Russian borders. This is not good. Russia has been, trying to say, hey, stop expanding. And I believe, just my opinion, I believe, if anything, that's why they're massing troops. It's not because they have plans on invading Ukraine. I think they have concerns about being invaded. That's what I think, just by looking at the situation without letting somebody else tell me what whose intentions are, just kind of looking as the chess pieces are getting moved around on the table. Kind of looks to me almost like they're setting up for a defense more than they are an offense. But we'll see. This here says Washington has sent fighter jets to Romania to patrol the skies near Russia's borders as part of a NATO mission designed to deter Moscow in the Black Sea region and around Ukraine. F-15E Strike Eagles from the 336th Fighter Squadron landed at the Campia Turzai airfield in central Romania on Wednesday. They will patrol the skies, taking off from an airbase near the country's Black Sea coast, along with Romanian warplanes and Italian Eurofighter Typhoons, NATO said. The arrival of American planes contributes to the Western military bloc's deterrence in the region, Brigadier General Joey Carey, the Allied Air Commander Deputy Chief of Staff Operations, said. Damn, is his title long enough? The ability to rapidly deploy Allied air assets in support of NATO is vital to our readiness and demonstrates the force's agility. Man, Allied Air Command Deputy Chief of Staff Operations. I'd be like, just call me Chief. Just call me Chief. Not good. Here, China's Xi thanks Putin for Russian partnership and face of Western pressure. They have been really going out of their way to let the world know that they fully intend to work together. especially in the face of conflict. They've made that pretty clear. I have never been more certain that we are right on the cusp of conflict. This is what you see nations do. U.S. could name Russia state sponsor of terrorism. That's a bit of an escalation. Says here, a group of American senators has introduced legislation to provide additional military support to Ukraine, proposing to designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism if Moscow aggressively strikes at its neighbor. 8 Republican Party legislators submitted the bill on Wednesday, naming it the GUARD Act, which stands for Guaranteeing Ukraine's Autonomy by Reinforcing Its Defense. The proposed legislation includes a range of measures designed to support Kiev, including authorizing $450 million in foreign military financing in 2022 and promising to designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism in the event of a perceived aggression. I love how they use the word perceived. You know, well, I feared for my life. Yeah, it's not like we never heard that. Again, this is taking steps in a direction, you know, in my opinion, this whole labeling thing is a joke anyway. But at what point does another nation say, you know what, we're getting really tired of you going around telling the world who's worthy, who's not worthy, who's this, who's that, especially a nation that is so far from having its own shit straight. Anybody'd get tired of it. And I think they're getting real tired of it. China supports Russia in NATO demands, says Moscow. It says here Chinese President Xi Jinping is fully supportive of Russia's plan to work out security guarantees with NATO to protect its western border, Russian presidential aide Yuri Yushakov said on Wednesday. Yushakov's comments came after Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke with Xi via video link. The revelation that China is backing Moscow is particularly notable, as Beijing has previously sought to distance itself from Russia's problems in dealing with other European states. Since the chairman specifically stated that he supports Russia's demands for guarantees, he is naturally well aware and understands the main issue, the concerns Russia has on its western borders, Yusakov said. The presidential aide stressed that Xi had given his backing to Russia's initiative to develop legally binding security with NATO. The sides have agreed to keep in touch on this issue, and we will keep our Chinese counterparts informed of how negotiations and contacts on this matter will unfold with our American and NATO partners, Yushakov said. So, again, it's just the same thing. And get this. Sorry, I'm telling you, headphones make my ears itch. They drive me crazy. The U.S. Treasury has blacklisted 34 Chinese companies and research institutes, with Washington accusing one of the named institutes of developing brain control weaponry. The Chinese institutes and firms were added to the department's entity list on Wednesday, joining more than 260 other Chinese businesses, including smartphone giant Huawei, already on the list. DJI is on the list. It's ridiculous. It truly is. It's stupid. It has really nothing to do with national security and pretty much everything to do with predatory business practices. That's what it amounts to. It's predatory business. Placement on the list forbids these firms from buying technology from the U.S. without express permission from Washington. Actually, it's the other way around. Placement on the list forbids the U.S. from buying technology from them. That's written backwards. Among the entities listed are Chinese Academy of Military Medical Sciences and 11 of its research institutes. In an entry to the Federal Register published Thursday, the Biden administration claimed that these institutes use biotechnology processes to support the Chinese military and have developed purported brain control weaponry. The specific pursuit of biotechnology and medical innovation can save lives. Unfortunately, the PRC is choosing to use these technologies to pursue control over its people and its repression of members of ethnic and religious minority groups. Huh. You mean the U.S. government's not trying to do the same to its citizens? You sure? Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo wrote in a statement referring to the People's Republic of China's alleged human rights abuses against Uyghur Muslims in the Chinese province of Xinjiang. I think all the larger nations are involved in this type of stuff. I really do. I don't think any of the nations that are involved in this kind of stuff are beyond using it on its own people. Because we've got case after case after case of different times that the U.S. government has experimented on its own people. Spraying radioactive material, of whatever it was, off of the tops of buildings in St. Louis. I mean, tons and tons of instances. What about the experiments with LSD, MK Ultra, and stuff like that? Some dude jumped out a hotel building window. His family went for years without any idea of what actually happened. And then they weren't told. They had to more or less figure it out from things that were going on, news stories and stuff. And I'm just telling you that because you have to understand these reasons why they're coming up with are bogus. NATO promises to keep expanding despite Russian objections. So, I mean, and this was the line in the sand. Do not forget, this was the line. So you got NATO sticking their chest out, saying we're going to do it anyway. It says right here, NATO expansion will continue whether Russia likes it or not. The U.S.-led bloc Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has declared, insisting that despite Moscow's objections, his organization does not pose a threat. Speaking at a press conference on Thursday, Stoltenberg addressed the possibility of Ukrainian membership, an outcome that Kiev has pushed for, but Russian President Vladimir Putin has described as a red line. The ex-Norwegian Prime Minister said that whether Ukraine joins NATO is up to the bloc's member states and its leadership, and that Moscow shouldn't have the input into the decision. He also emphasized that NATO is already supporting the Eastern European nation militarily. So you notice that we went from all the talk of, well, there's no way that they could be a member because, X, Y, and Z, to, well, they're kind of already, being helped by NATO now anyway, and, well, we'll see what happens. I do believe that Putin did mean that was his red line. I believe he meant that. A U.S. Marines chief reveals biggest risk for his force. Now, mind you, it almost appears that they're doing everything they can to get us involved in another major conflict. And then we have stuff like this. Hang on. Okay. We had a dog deciding to be extra slurpy back there. Okay, let me go ahead and read a little of this to you. The U.S. Marine Corps risks being left without the weapons it will need to fight unless Congress and the Pentagon fund new programs amid a purge of old technology, its commandment has warned. Yeah, I mean, now mind you, they don't have a lot of that old technology anyway because they left it over in Afghanistan, but nonetheless, the stuff that wasn't left over there in Afghanistan is kind of a bit outdated. General David Berger warned that if Congress and the Pentagon were not willing to back his force, the USMC might end up in a bad place after it gets rid of legacy things such as tanks and artillery without receiving new cutting-edge capabilities to replace them. We're in that middle ground where we're rapidly changing, he told an online event hosted by the Center for New American Security on Tuesday. If you're left in a lurch there, that's not a good place to be. So, and that's what I've been saying for a while now about how we weren't really developing a lot of new stuff for a period of time. And it's just, we weren't doing it. I'm pretty sure the funding was going out there for it, but it wasn't happening. It wasn't being done. And so that put us behind. I mean, I'm telling you, the military-industrial complex has absolutely soaked this country dry. And in all reality, have produced little. Very little for what they've gotten. And they're so evil that even the little lull that we're in right now, where they're not making their record profits, is driving them crazy. And they're doing everything they can to get us right back into conflict. So anyway, here's the one that came out earlier as I was just starting. China responds to U.S. blacklisting its biotech firms. So here's the response. China has condemned the U.S. Treasury's decision to blacklist 34 Chinese countries and institutes, calling allegations that they were developing brain control weaponry totally groundless. 34 entities, including the Chinese Academy of Military Medical Sciences, were added to the blacklist on Wednesday, prohibiting them from purchasing any U.S. technology. Or I guess maybe they can't get U.S. technology, but I also know that, when they do these blacklists, that the United States can't buy from them either. Let's see. Before Wednesday's editions, the blacklist already contained over 200. We already talked about all that. The Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. blasted the U.S. decision as unwarranted suppression and vowing to take all essential measures to protect China's businesses. China's development of biotechnology has always been for the well-being of mankind. The relevant claims of the U.S. side are totally groundless, spokesperson Liu Pingyu stated in a statement on Thursday. Liu was firing back at the allegations by U.S. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo, who earlier accused China of developing biotechnologies to support the Chinese military with the purported brain control weaponry. So, again, this is just more or less their response, and I'm sure there'll be another. It'll be a back and forth. It'll be a back and forth all the way up until it gets hot. And I do believe it's going to get hot. I mean, everybody's choosing their sides, more or less. The different nations, equipment, everything's being put into place. And we're watching all of that unfold now. Oh, man. I am glad it is my Friday. Alright, how about we rip through these and get the heck out of here. We have a few vapes though. It helps me focus. Okay, it's a bunch of horse shit, but it helps me not sit here and shake because I'm having a nicotine fit. How's that? I guess in that sense it does help me focus. Alright. Starting out with news from that I put out this morning. Fauci boss prompts deep fake speculation with bizarre COVID stunt. Yeah, I am not going to play that song on this show. That song is just absolutely no. U.S. base in Syria comes under suspected drone attack. Children fall to their death in freak inflatable castle accident. You know what? I'm not a fan of new laws. I'm not a fan of new regulations or anything like that. But can we do something about this? Because there are far too many inflatable whatever. They're not all castles. Some of them are big slides. They're whatever. But these big inflatables, there has been a number of these accidents to where strong winds come up and kill or injure children. There's got to be something that we can do. I've got a suggestion, and I'm not one that likes, hang on. Sorry, my nose is trying to stuff up on me. I am absolutely 100% against more laws, more regulations, more restrictions. But this seems to be an area to where I can't see much where it would hurt. And it could be pretty simple. And I would think that just have a simple, you got to have a permit to be able to put these things up. Now, I'm not saying for your home. I'm full believer that do what you want at home. But for things like schools, for things like events, stuff like that, commercial types of things, I think that the person that puts it up should have to be permitted. And that part of that permitting process includes the training and understanding about how to properly tie these things down so that the wind isn't capable to pick them up and throw them. If we did that, at least we could have some recourse, direct recourse, like, hey, you know, this guy should have known how to stake this down correctly. This is happening way too often. And it does. It bothers me. Because this is kids, folks. I mean, that's why it bothers me so much. This is kids. The ones we're supposed to be there to protect. We're failing. We need to fix the areas in which we fail to protect them. And this is one of them. I see this way too often. U.S. develops tool. Oh, covered that. South Korea reverses living with COVID plan. This is their quote, not mine. I've had 7 vaccinations against COVID-19 and I feel good. Zeranovsky, whoever the hell that is. Feel like a as a third arm's going out of my head. Let's see. West using election interference to weaken Russia, says a report. Man who invited Taliban into Kabul speaks out. EU targets European ex-Soviet states and excludes Russia. Software fix for worst vulnerable... I'm just butchering this. Software fix for worst vulnerability in a decade contains exploits. So the fix is also an exploit. So, nice. It's not really called a fix. Russia tests new anti-submarine... Oh, covered that. Nature creates plastic-eating bugs to save planet from pollution, says a study. I'm telling you, Mother Nature is incredible. And I think that we need to do what we can to take care of it. The planet, Mother Nature. Absolutely. But make no mistake, the moment that we become too much for her, she'll flick us off like a flea. You can bet that. Apple memory holes, pedo-busting iPhone photo scanning plan. Well, they say memory holes. What that is they more or less got rid of all the information where they even talked about it, and they'll just keep their mouth shut about it and implement it anyway. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what that's saying. Without saying it. Musk says he'll pay the most tax in U.S. history. Okay. Ukraine Zelensky calls for sanctions against Russia now. France bans UK tourists. YouTube deletes RT's German language channel showing newly launched 24/7 TV broadcast. Yeah, just like up and damned it. Bank warns Bitcoin value could drop to 0. Unexpected impact of pandemic on U.S. teens revealed. Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova issue joint statement on EU. UK explains why it can't track COVID cases properly. Because you never could. MP deletes tweets equating COVID restrictions to the Holocaust. Drug smugglers burning $30 million worth of stash rescued in mid-sea. Concerns over side effect claims hamper COVID jab deliveries, says documents. By the way, this would have been much funnier if it would have been like a Cheech and Chong episode, and it wouldn't have went out like that though, man. They would have had a much more creative way. A company that rocked Wall Street to go public. They're talking about Reddit. Queen cancels pre-Christmas family lunch due to Omicron, says Buckingham Palace. So, Australians urged not to panic and overreact over Omicron. Covered that. Protesters in 90% vaccinated nation demonstrate against COVID-19 curbs. If you don't quit, I'm going to get the football. She's got a Nerf football. It's, no, not really. It's a dog toy. And I keep threatening. That's what she got from Grandpa. So, anyway, I keep threatening to throw it at her. But I keep threatening to get a Nerf gun for when she gets slurpy or scruffy. And I keep threatening to get a Nerf gun. Well, I haven't gotten a Nerf gun yet. But she got this little pull chew thing with a Nerf football on it. So, she saw me pick it up and she's like, oh, it's probably time to quit. I've never thrown it at her. She ain't dumb. WHO, let me put you back over there. WHO could approve Sputnik 5 soon, top boss tells RT. Economic superpower faked stats for years. All-time high number of guns seized in U.S. airports. World War III is... covered that one. UK hikes interest rate to beat 10-year inflation high. Iran to export homegrown COVID-19 vaccines. Covered that. Brits told to prioritize events amid phenomenal pace of Omicron spread. And again, they're really pumping up the fear over there about this. Voters blame inflation on Bidenomics. Well, what else is it? Man seeks help from NASA experts over lost bitcoins. He lost a lot more than I did. I'm telling you, I've got a couple out there in a wallet somewhere, and I have no idea what email address for sure I used. Not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure. Raped prisoners won't lose places in Russian criminal gangs, says reports. That headline doesn't make a lot of sense. I didn't read the article, to be honest. Judge to take unpaid leave over family's comments. African American Barbie sparks calls for regulations on dolls. This is in Russia. I really don't understand it. To me, that I'm kind of uncomfortable with that headline, to be honest. I don't see an issue with having an African American Barbie. Not at all. In fact, I'm completely fine with it. I don't care if they have Russian Barbies. I don't care if they have Portuguese Barbies. I don't care. There are types of Barbies that I wish they would refrain from, but it has nothing to do with race. China's Xi thanks Putin for Russian partnership in face of Western pressure. McDonald's reclaims tens of millions from ex-CEO. UK hospitals in trouble over skyrocketing Omicron cases. Again, they're really pumping it up over there. Russia to ban crypto, says reports. England reveals measures to help schools battle staff shortages amid COVID. EU divided over how to tackle Omicron. Nord Stream 2 will not be certified in the first half of 2022, says a German regulator. American senators propose branding Russia state-sponsored... Oh, I already covered that, sorry. Denmark to send foreign convicts abroad for jailing. Tesla sues customers over criticism, says the media. Pretty sure that might not be a good idea. Probe triggered over claims pharma firms pushed unapproved drugs on trans kids. Yikes. RAF warplane in unprecedented engagement over Syria. So it actually shot down a drone. So those are pretty cool planes. Russian lawmakers consider tightening foreign agent laws. EU greenlights new COVID treatments. Melania Trump launches crypto-powered NFT. Covered that. National football coach allegedly raped so many boys. That's the quote. That's the quote. China supports Russia's plan to get security guarantees from NATO, says Moscow. Google must pay millions if Russian YouTube channel is not restored. False memory expert called to testify in Ghislaine Maxwell's defense trial. Covered that. NYPD commissioner appointed in front of mural praising convicted domestic terrorist. French hackers create 54,000 fake vaccine passports, says reports. School owes transgender student $4 million in bathroom case. Only 2 countries vote against UN resolution condemning Nazism. Biden predicts dark winter for the... cover that one. Sorry. Cover that one. CDC urges cover that one. Wow. A judge orders search of Alec Baldwin's phone after shooting. And I normally don't cover entertainment stuff, but this whole thing is just completely surreal. And U.S. approves abortion pills by mail. Crazy, huh? Anyway, that is, I never did share that one out. Hang on, I better do that now. I did cover that one earlier, but I didn't share it out. So anyway, I am going to get out of here. I would recommend that y'all keep a close eye on things. Seriously, I think it's, oops, I closed that window. Hang on. I can fix it. See? I couldn't do that on the other software I used. It wouldn't let me do that. I'd have to close the software completely down, reopen all my default windows, and reopen the software, and then reconnect it. Nightmare. Just keep a close eye on things. Because things, when they do go, I think they're going to go pretty quickly. And, I think definitely 24, 48 hours is going to make all the difference. Just keep a close eye. Any one of these things can blow up to an unprecedented level in the blink of a moment, or a blink of an eye. So just keep an eye on things, keep getting ready. Don't panic. Just be able to respond. So anyway, I'm out of here. I hope you all have a good weekend. God willing, we'll be back Sunday. We'll see you then. I'm sure I'll have videos out before then. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.